We have Zonda that was just joined in. Zonda, you're welcome to the program.
Thanks, guys. Hope
You're
everyone is
welcome.
doing great.
Yeah, we're doing
Sure.
great.
Welcome.
We're just having a little outer chat out of the topic. While we wait for Patrick to join in from South Sudan, I think we should just commence since you're already here. This one minute. Okay, so once again, you're welcome to the program, please. You're welcome. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the insight you want to put in. And I'm really looking forward to a great conversation and a great discussion with you. And as we wait for any other participants to join in, let's just proceed. So today, I really want us to talk on something really important. I call it important because it is 2023 and it's a strategic year in African development agenda plan, okay, in our calendar, because 2023 is supposed to be the 10th year in the implementation, the first 10-year implementation phase of the African Union Agenda 2063. And it has a lot of, it's a great vision, which dwells to give an integrated and prosperous and peaceful Africa. And in that light, the African Union highlighted 13 flagship projects. I could say 13 flagship programs, which I thought could be implemented within the space of 10 years. That's from 2013 to 2023. And that's what we're about to discuss. And before I get into that, I just want to give a rundown of them. So I think the first flagship project was an integrated high-speed network connecting all commercial and national capitals of African states and the African commodity market, the continental free trade area, the Pan-African e-network, the African passport, enabling free movement of people, silencing the guns by 2020, the Grand Inga Dam project, the annual African Forum, the single air transport market, the African outer space strategy, the Pan-African Virtual University, and the Great African Museum. I had to take a look at all this plan, all these flagship projects, as they say. I mean, it's such a great ambition. But now I think we want to assess and look at the realization of it and how far we have come. Yeah. So I just want to start with you, Olayemi, Luke. What's your assessment? What's your assessment on the implementation of these projects? And do you think we have had more failures than successes, or vice versa?
Well, like I said, these plans are very, very ambitious. Having single railway, continental free trade, you name it. All these plans are very, very ambitious. Now, as regards the assessment so far, I would say definitely we've not even achieved a quarter of all these things. I don't think we've achieved a quarter of any of these things yet. Now I would speak mostly as a Nigerian. So let me talk about the railway, for instance. I would say Nigeria's credit, especially to the credit of the current administration, we've invested over the past 7 years. We've invested heavily on railway. We've built railway from Lagos to a state in Nigeria called Kano. And I think we're also planning on building a railway from Nigeria to connect the Republic of Niger. So I would say, yeah, I can see some development in terms of railway in Africa, but I don't know much about the rest of the African continent. So, but we can only pick and choose here and there in terms of all these projects and plans. But as a whole, I don't think we've really gone far at all. Even after, I was just reading today that after just took the first phase of after took place last year, October of last year, with about 8 countries or so signing off on certain goods to trade amongst themselves. So, and after they've been talking about after for many years now. So we've not gone far at all. And I can also understand some limitations as to why we've not gone far. A whole lot of this has to be funding. Who is ready to fund all these things? Especially when you factor in what has happened to the world in the past two years or so, coronavirus and all. So even countries of the world they have their own domestic problems. International community, they have their own domestic problems. So there isn't that much money, whether it's the World Bank or IMF or whatever, the usual suspects. There isn't enough money to fund some of these projects. So to wrap it up, I don't think we've gone far at all. And I would say that the biggest challenge we've had has to be funding.
Okay. All right, Zoda, over to you. What's your assessment, please? What's your assessment on implementation?
Concerning the African Union, right? I've not been paying so much attention, basically because there's really nothing, maybe apart from the biometric passport thing that I saw sometime. That's really struck my attention. That warrants my time to really sit back and then look at stuff that they're doing, because from the start, back in 2013, 14, I think they were off on the wrong foot. You know, you might not have gigantic projects like that without necessarily looking at different personal internal problems that the various countries that you want them to come together to build these things that they have. You know, it's like me trying to tell you that we should start a food charity organization to give food to people. Meanwhile, you're not eating. So it doesn't really make sense to you that you can be part of such a project, then you are very implicated in the project. Like my friend from Nigeria was saying, you see, the whole thing is a structural problem. And I think the job of African Union is look at the countries individually. They have that capacity. That's why it's called the African Union. Look at individual countries. What are the problems are they facing vis-a-vis the vision that we have? Because I feel like African Union and all these organizations, they know how to talk very well. They know how to do politics, they know how to write. When it comes of what has to be done, it's not really there. That's why I'm not really interested in what they're doing, and it doesn't really pick my attention. And I want to just be focusing my energies on things that they'll produce, and it's we are better off in Africa building ourselves individually, focusing on what the African Union is doing, because everybody who is in the African Union is there for their own personal interests. They have never really we the youth of today, we young professionals today, we think differently. We want different things for Africa, and they're not resonating to that thing that we have, and they don't even understand, or they're not interested in that. So that's my take for the first round.
All right, I want to thank you for that. Now I want to get to this other question. You know, we've had the assessment that these projects have been a failure so far, about 90%. Like I said, like Olayemi said about after. I think that's one of the things. That's one of the older projects that have been really like instrumental, but still lagging behind in implementation. Now, I just want to ask about your opinion on what you think the hindrances to the implementation of these projects were, and how do you think we can navigate through? Olayemi, over to you.
Okay. All right. So, like I said initially, funding is a huge part of the problems you're facing, and another problem I would identify would be lack of political will. My friend talked about that earlier. Yeah, we have structural problems in individual African countries, structural problems. If we don't have strong institutions, there is no way we are going to actualize any of these things. There is just no way. If we still have issues such as corruption, I'm talking about top level corruption in government, there's just no way we are going to achieve any of those things. If some people benefit from the failure that exists in the system, because think about this, it doesn't matter how messed up the system is in any country, some people benefit from that. So those people would not want the system to work, because no one wants to stop their cash cow, right? No one wants their cash cow dead. So we have structural problems in individual African countries. Nigeria is probably one of the most corrupt countries in the world, because one of our accountants general was just detained, if you know how much he allegedly stole from the coffers of government. So if we still have things like that we're battling with, we can't achieve any of these things. Another issues I would say would be lack of education. We don't have adequate manpower, I would say. Illiteracy is still a big thing on the African continent. Huge problem on the African continent. So we need manpower. Another problem is security, because we've invested so much tackling insecurity, especially within the past 10 years. The Chad Basin, for instance, Cameroon, Nigeria, with this problem in the past 10 years. So we spent billions and billions of dollars purchasing arms for our military, trying to settle internally displaced people, and also trying to rebuild infrastructure that have been, blown up by terrorists and all that. So imagine if we spent all these monies on, education, for instance, on healthcare, for instance, on infrastructure, for instance. So insecurity has derailed our spending in Africa for the past, I would say, give or take 10 years. So these are some of the problems I would say are tackling the implementation of some of these plans. But I would say the biggest would definitely be lack of political will. We don't have leaders. We can objectively say that Africa has a lot of leaders that have political wills to do anything, in fact.
Please, let me interject there, please. You talk about political will. I want to know if this hindrance is at the level of the political organization called the AU, or at the level of the individual member states.
In the individual member states, I would blame individual member states more than I would blame the AU, because at the end of the day, look, the AU can do whatever it want to do. The United Nations can do whatever they want to do. We don't even need an AU to tell us to do the right things in the first place. We don't need the UN to tell us what to be doing with our countries. He said that earlier on. You understand? We don't need anyone to tell us what to do with our own resources, with our own people. We don't need that. It even shows how it's an insult to us. In fact, I would say it's an insult to us.
Okay. Zonda, over to you, please. What do you think are some of the hindrances, and how do you think we can navigate through them? Do you think we should break up the
for me, breaking up the AU is oversaying it, but the AU needs to. There's a lot of revamp that needs to happen within the building blocks of the AU. You understand? We need more people that are more pragmatic about not just talking, but about saying things and then actually doing them. I'll mainly just add to what my friend from Nigeria has said. He has said a lot of things that I think are the same things that I'm thinking about, that are the problems, right? And just to give you guys like context, we are trying to build a certain type of Africa through the AU, right? How easy it is for us to move economic value from one African country to another?
Yeah.
How easy it is. Yeah. Infrastructurally, it's a disaster. We are in 2023. Absolutely. You get the point. So the things that make people happy, the things that make people get up from their bed every day to do in Africa, that basic thing, to move it from one country where there maybe it might be abundant to another country where there is less abundant, and vice versa, it's a complete disaster. Yeah. Take, for instance, if I want to transfer money to Nigeria, leave crypto aside. Before crypto, how could I have transferred money to Nigeria? The middleman, Western Union, Express Union, call it whatever you want to call it, they take a huge percentage of that money. By the time it gets to Nigeria, the economic value of what I want to do has reduced. So I keep running behind time. You understand? So it's really, for me, it's really about these basics. And sometimes I get very sick in my head, right? So people get up from their bed, they have this sophisticated internet, they have the cars, service cars and all. Then they have titles that they are working for the AU, and they don't know these basic things. Or maybe they know the basic things and they are not willing, that political will to change it, man. It's crazy. So sometimes when I look at all of these things happening to Africa, before even going right up to the problems that are maybe above the foundation, how can somebody stay in Cameroon and move economic value, just send money easily to South Africa, to Kenya, to whatever country that they? Is it easy for us Africans to do business with other African countries? You cannot imagine it's easy for us to send money to the US than to send money to a neighboring African country.
Yeah.
So these are the things that I think the AU needs to pay attention to. Before maybe my next intervention will go deeper into how exactly the concrete solution, how they can really use crypto to really solve this problem. Thank you, guys.
Exactly.
So if I could interject,
Sure.
I think the reason why it's difficult to transact business within Africa, to send money from one African country to another African country, is because there is actually very little in terms of service or business happening, cross-border African businesses happening. I think it's really because of that. I think they say the money follows, right? You listen to where the money follows, right? So if there's very little business being conducted between, say, Tanzania and Rwanda, then obviously, as someone in the fintech space, I wouldn't really want to develop something in that regard. I wouldn't want to develop a mobile money app in that regard, because I might end up suffering a loss from that. Now, if there's so much transaction happening between Rwanda and the UK, definitely I want to, but in the Tanzania, I noticed that there's very little transaction going on. I might not want to invest in that space. I think that's really why. That's what explains why there's so little in terms of fintech infrastructure within Africa.
Sonda, I see
but I just my own.
That makes sense, right? But to an extent, I want to differ, right? Okay. See, the West came to Africa to sell themselves, right? They did their marketing, and the sales pitch was very good, right? It's been inculcated in our system that everything Western America, China, is pay attention even to the neighboring countries, what they have as economic value that we can exchange between ourselves.
I agree.
I think to an extent, what you're saying is right, but if we Africans tend to really think about internally, there's a lot that we can move around, money, goods, and services that will help leapfrog the development of Africa, rather than us taking that money all the time for goods and services. Meanwhile, it was our raw materials that they will use majority of the time to create these things. Right? That is us not paying enough attention to what other African countries have, right? The West cannot be saying Africa in terms of land, we are the richest, but yet we cannot do business with our neighbors. It's crazy. You understand what I'm trying to say? That's why my own, like, when I look at that aspect, I know there is something that we need to do, right? And since they made it deliberate for it to be difficult to move money around, especially in French Africa, it's deliberate. It's been made deliberate by France. So you cannot easily move value around. So you only tend to look at France as the person that you need to always do business with. So the bigger chunk of the economic value stays in France, and then they keep developing. So we need to really change that that way of looking at things, then looking back at different countries and see what we can do there. Yeah.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
I want to thank you very much, Zonda, for that insight. Now, I want us to look at practical policies. Before that, I want to welcome David, who just joined in. David, you're welcome. If you want to say something, just indicate. I'll give you the floor. So now, I want us to look at practical policy solutions. Now, looking at the future, what practical policy reforms do you think can be undertaken within the AU and within the individual membership states to help propel the implementation and the realization of Agenda 2063?
like I said, I think I would hold individual African countries more accountable here.
Yeah.
Now, if we can get good leadership across board in Africa, all these things they are very easy to achieve. Trust me, they are very easy to achieve. Now, there's no way you are going to achieve any of these if inside the West African countries, they are still, switching between civilian rule and military rule. I mean, we've had instances like that over the past few years now, right? Some countries have reverted to military rule. So imagine if we have sustainable democratic rule across board with strong institutions, then all these things are very, 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 very easy to achieve. So my point is, in terms of policy, it's really the onus is on us as African peoples to vote in credible leaders. And across board, from the municipal levels to federal levels, the onus is on us to elect good leaders. The AU is not going to elect good leaders for us, unfortunately. The US is not going to elect good leaders for us. We have to do that by ourselves. So once we can champion sound leadership, a very good example is Rwanda. No matter what you want to say about Rwanda, maybe certain excesses in terms of civil rights and what have you, But Rwanda is a classic example of an individual African country that has consciously developed itself. Why is it that Rwanda is just an example in Africa? Why is it one example in Africa? I was talking about the AFTA the other time. Rwanda is one of the 8 countries that are signed off on AFTA. Rwanda is very serious about things like this, but Nigeria is not serious. Other African countries are not serious about things like this. So the onus is actually on us to get good leadership across board before the AU can think of doing anything, before the IMF or the World Bank or anything can do anything. It's actually on us as a people. That's my view.
Okay, Olayemi, I want us to get to you. That was the aspect of leadership. I want to talk about practical policy reforms, like policy reforms on education, on finance, on governance, and what have you, on socioeconomic policy and everything. I just want to get your opinion on those practical policy reforms. What do you think?
Okay, from the top of my head, I would say tariffs should be, as best as possible, they should reduce tariffs. Anyone who is ready to transact business from an African country to another African country, eliminate tariffs. It doesn't make any sense why you should be imposing tariffs and customs duties or what have you on a Nigerian trying to transact business in Cameroon or what have you. No, eliminate tariffs, reduce taxations. As a matter of fact, if an African national wants to set up a business in another African country, as best as you can, reduce taxation as well. Give them tax holidays. These are some of the policies that increase economic outputs in a country. Lower taxation rates, lower tariffs, and so from the top of my head, I can only think about that for now.
Okay. Now, I just want to remark on the point of taxation. It's really as you were mentioning, it kind of triggered me because a country like us. I mean, I'm talking about Cameroon. Cameroon is a country that's alive on taxes, and like taxes rule the economy and everything. And with the prices of just at the beginning of the year, our president announced an increase in the prices of nearly everything, and now we have increased a few prices, like commodity markets are just skyrocketing and everything, and still yet taxes are not reducing. So it looks like there is an influence of lobby and interest from powers from which I don't know. Seriously, that's what I think.
That's one of the paradoxes of tax. It's one of the paradoxes of tax because some people believe that you need to increase tax to increase your revenue as a country. But who suffers that at the end of the day? It's the consumers that suffers that. If I'm a producer and I have to pay more tax, I just shift the burden of that on the consumer of my product. You understand? So it's a paradox of tax. I'm a firm believer of lower taxation rates, lower tariffs, and all these things. The thing is this: the government doesn't really have to do too much. Now, when employers and business owners get to make more profits, definitely they think of expanding their business, right? So when you expand your business, you employ more people, and that affects the entire value chain. But when you increase taxation, you cap it at a particular point, which is unreasonable. Then you push that on the consumer. And sometimes you even have to lay off your workers. So I don't think high tax rate is good for the economy. Personally, I don't think it's good for the economy.
Okay. Zonda, over to you, please. I want to find out what you think can be some of the practical policy reforms that can be undertaken at the level of the AU, the political organization called AU, and the level of membership states that can fast track the implementation of Agenda 2063. We are 10 years into it, and but nothing has been done yet.
I would propose something that goes a bit more general, and then above, like that goes above the projects and the AU, but Africa as a whole, and still relating to the AU. Over the years, right, leadership generally and mostly in Africa has been tampered with the greed of human. All of us are innately greedy, right? So it has taught us that we need a structure, an infrastructure that is trustless. That you don't need somebody to be able to be in a certain way or morality or from a certain kind of background to be able to trust them, right? So this is where Bitcoin plays a very, very important role, right? Let's take for example, if I want to send money to somebody who is in China today, right? And my goods, maybe I'm buying goods and services from China to be able to bring back to Africa, then sell, then do the same thing and stuff, right? I'll need to maybe go to Western Union. I'll need to make sure there's cash on the other side, all of these things I need to make sure, right? But when it's Bitcoin, right? All I need to do is the person on the other side ready to receive the money within split seconds, and then with almost no fee, the person gets the money. So it's very easy for us to transfer economic value and get goods and services that will help Africa develop within that trustless system. I've never seen the person. I don't need to know who the person is. I don't need to know anything. And if there's any doubt, there's an open ledger where I can check transactions and stuff like that, right? Now, one thing I feel that the AU needs to do is to educate people more about Bitcoin, not crypto. There's a very big difference around there. Every other project which is not Bitcoin is liable to infiltration, is liable to corruption, is liable to anything that is human, right? So what makes Bitcoin and the only crypto that is genuine in the sense of being crypto is that it has these three fundamentals, right? It is decentralized, it is secure, then it's scalable. All other blockchain, Bitcoin, or other crypto projects, either they are decentralized, they are secure, they are not scalable. They either have two, but they don't have the three, right? So what made Bitcoin to grow to this level was because at the beginning of Bitcoin, the US government ignored it. So the ignorance, the fact that they allowed it to spread, so the ledgers, the computers and everything, it made the network very strong in terms of decentralization. So by the time they realized 2 years later that this thing is going to take over the world, it was too late. So the more they tried to hamper the network, the more the network got stronger. So moving on to maybe 2015, a lot of people really not Ethereum the second project. That's when it started. But now, when a crypto project or anything that has to do with crypto, when you know the leader, it's very, very dangerous. Because crypto is there to make sure that you move economic value very easily without the interference of the government or any third party.
Okay.
In Africa,
permit me.
You said something?
Yeah, I just want to ask if you are proposing that African states adopt Bitcoin as a favorable monetary policy than what we have now.
Yes. Because
how do you think?
What we have is fiat, is empty paper where people will just sit somewhere and decide to print it, right? Bitcoin is open source. You know that there is 21 million. You know there will never be more. The code is there. It's not as if I'm telling you. With Bitcoin, you don't believe, you verify. You don't trust, you verify. So it removes that aspect of you trusting human beings, which is the biggest failure of leadership in Africa. I want you guys to aspect. We are failing because humans are the people leading us, right? We need to go past that level where you and I can easily trade without necessarily trusting it to Western, to Bitcoin, which starts as that bridge, which is not trying to maybe get, but trying to make sure that you and I can easily do transactions, regardless of where you are, so long as you are part of the network, you can do it. And it's inclusive. It doesn't care about your religion, anything, literally anything. You can do business with somebody at the farthest side of the world to the closest place around you without any issue. You know, imagine if the African Union can use this Bitcoin as a flagship project to build a foundation in Africa that people can easily move economic value. It means that I have an open market in Nigeria, I have an open market in Congo, I have an open market without worrying how maybe middlemen that I'll need to transfer money, how much they'll be cutting, they'll be taking that value out of my money. So this inspires me as a young African that if I want to send my money to buy goods and services, maybe from Congo, I'm sending the full money and it gets to Congo without any interference. I'm trying to transfer, which is different. So they allow me create economic value, then they take tax from it. Not me trying to transfer money, they cut the money. Meanwhile, I've not created any economic value. It kills the economy. Then later, there are taxes everywhere. So it's a really, it's something that
because of excuse me, because of time constraint, I just want to cut in there. But I really like the way you're passionate talking about Bitcoin. I think we should do a discussion on that specifically. Now, all right, sure. Olayemi, I want to come to you. This is just like a conclusion. We have 3 minutes left, and I just want to ask about where do you see Africa heading in the year 2023 with regards to the implementation of Agenda 2063, with all the problems, the price hikes, inflation, the conflicts going on around in Africa? Where do you see Africa heading this year, 2023?
Honest with you, I don't think Africa will have gone any further than this in the next 10 years, to be honest. The same problems we're talking about today, we'll still be talking about a huge chunk of them in the next 10 years. And I'm not trying to be a prophet of doom or anything. I mean, I wasn't born last night. I'm an African. I understand how things are in Africa. So I don't have any assuming any of these plans. But
thank you. 1 minute, Zonda. Where do you see Africa heading in the year 2023? Just 30 seconds.
I think it's almost the same thing that my friend from Nigeria is saying. That there'll be some progress, but you will not feel any. There will not be any significance in the progress, right? The method that needs to be implemented, and until those things start to be in the mix of what they're doing, there will start to see some fundamental big changes. Yeah.
All right. I want to thank you very much for your time and all your insights and all your input. It was really inspiring. It was really insightful. And a record of this will be made and put on YouTube, and link will be shared on social media handles for people to follow and for future references. And David, I want to thank you for joining in. I don't know where you're joining us from.
Is my friend from Nigeria.
Okay.
Do you want to say anything, David?
You want to say anything? Just we have 1 minute.
You all have spoken very well. It was nice listening to the conversation. I don't really think the AU is doing anything significant. I'm a student of international relations and I've doing a lot of study on the international community and everything. I've not really seen any significant thing, and I don't think you'll do any significant thing as of this year, 2023 yet. But let's keep on hoping and just keep
All right.
speaking of. Yeah.
We are. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you, and keep doing the work you're doing. Thank you very much, and we'll keep in touch. You guys have a great start of the week, and I'll get to you on personal contacts. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Bye, everyone.
Yeah.
Take care.
Bye. Take care.